Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I say all three because whether you are joining us live or later on demand, we want to welcome you to the second session of the Insight 2022 webinar series. We are so excited to bring an all-star team together with you to talk personally while spotlighting our friends at FedEx Custom Critical and expanding on our Starting Your Own Trucking Business series with truck ownership opportunities at ES, where in 2022, it is all about you. My name is Leah Shaver, and I will serve as host and moderator of our conversation. I want to thank you for what you are doing to keep our country moving. Thank you to those of you who work from sunup to sunset and all the time before, after, and in between, especially taking the time to join us today. Over the course of a very eventful and tumultuous last 2 years, as professional truck drivers continue to deliver necessities across North America, just know that I am cheering for you. I worry about you. I hope the best for you. But today we are very happy to connect with you. Before we have our panelists introduce themselves, and as we give more attendees a moment to join us, I just want to give you a couple of notes about today's presentation and webinar. First of all, the Insight 2022 online series is being presented by Expediter Services. ES is a leader in capacity solutions and ownership opportunities. ES is pleased to have Stoops Freightliner serve as our title sponsor of the Insight 2022. Our webinar series is only one part of the Insight 2022. ES is also producing a podcast series. Through the podcast, we offer listeners an in-depth look at key issues and opportunities in the trucking industry. To listen to the podcast series and get the latest news on the Insight 2022 series, you can visit us at successintrucking.com. Couple of last pointers are that the webcast platform today on Zoom, if you are viewing on your phone or tablet, we recommend you turn it to the side or the landscape position for the best possible viewing conditions. And note that this is a live webcast, so time permitting, we will take your questions. If you have an ask or interest during the webcast, send it to us through the question platform via chat. We will take account of those, and if we aren't able to answer live during the session, we will respond via email, so make sure that you have your questions in the chat. If you're watching on the replay, you can still submit questions. And lastly, if you happen to encounter a technical issue during today's event, use the chat, describe the technical issue you're experiencing. We do have a dedicated team member that will respond to you and address those issues. All right, let's meet our panel. In this edition of the Insight webinar series from Expediter Services, we are going to explore how comprehensive support and the services trucking business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs receive as part of the ES community while working with FedEx Custom Critical ensures that you will never stand alone. Brief introductions, starting with me. Why? Because I have the mic. I own and operate the National Transportation Institute, where we serve information and support to folks that employ or contract with professional drivers or work with companies that do. We aim to deliver opportunities for fleets to grow, to attract additional workers, and expand in their marketplace with an appropriately compensated, engaged, and retained workforce. We also work with other vendor service organizations and help them expand in the trucking industry. I serve on the board of directors of the Next Generation in Trucking Association, and I work as a talk radio host on SiriusXM's Road Dog Trucking Radio. In addition to filling in for a full-time host, you can catch me coming up here on the first Thursday of every month from 11 to 2 Eastern for Payday with Leah Shaver on Road Dog Live and on demand on the SiriusXM app. Keep in mind, it is crucial at all times to monitor economic conditions that impact your business and align with folks that protect your business by knowing your business and supporting your goals and knowledge bank during both certain and uncertain times. We have been operating in a very interesting environment for the last 2 years, and there has never been a more in-demand time for folks to become owners in the industry, to grow their fleets and expand their operations. Joining me for today's discussions and to start the presentation with an introduction is Jason Williams, President of Expediter Services, and Jeff Tacker, Chief Operating Officer and Chief of everything, frankly, of Expediter Services. Gents, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hey, I'm Jason Williams with Expediter Services. My introduction is not nearly as long as Leah's. I don't do half as much as she does. So We appreciate everybody being here. Certainly appreciate Jason and Steve participating today. And we thank Leah for hosting us today.
Very good. Now, Jason, since you have the mic, why don't you share a little bit about why we want to have this conversation today? Tell us about the history with FedEx Custom Critical and Expediter Services, and let folks understand the relationship a little bit more as we get the conversation started.
Yes, ma'am. Well, when ES first got started, Paul Williams, my father, and I, we were looking for a good motor carrier that we could operate underneath, kind of as a safe haven. And Custom Critical, we made contact with them through Todd Ferguson, and that goes back over 15 years ago. And so it's been a good relationship, a good open relationship. You know, you have good conversations, good days, bad days, but that's what we were looking for. To be honest with you, for 15 years, FedEx Custom Critical has been that. It's you have cycles, you have, again, good times and bad times inside a very volatile industry, but we continue to do business with them, and we're so excited for them to be here with us today, because they've proven as an organization, as they see changes internal and external, to stay in front of the market and continue to offer a good opportunity for people to come in and start small businesses, grow their existing business, become, contract drivers for fleet owners, owner operators becoming fleet owners, things of that nature. So that was the dynamic that we needed, and all of that needed to be there together. And FedEx Custom Critical over the years has provided that. And it's been a good relationship for us to take advantage of in a good way, in order to grow our business and to help grow our drivers to owners and owners to fleet owners. So that piece of it, what we'd like to do today, obviously, is highlight that opportunity, the reality of it, that it's not just something that we're speaking to. This is not just a, recruiting effort or something of that nature. This is truly highlighting the where the rubber meets the road in transportation, that there's real opportunity still in this country. There are real companies out there that can still give you a real shot at having success of running your own business. And that's really what we're wanting to talk about today, and highlight both what FedEx Custom Critical can do to support that and what Expediter Services can do to support that.
Excellent. And Mr. Tacker, I teased you about being the chief of everything, because Jason says that I've got a long intro, but so would you if we gave you the time on the mic. Tell us a little bit about what you do at ES.
I'm going to keep it very brief.
Okay.
Jeff Tacker, Executive Vice President, Chief Operating Officer, Chief Commercial Officer, and anything else that I'm told to do or get permitted to do. So I'm thankful and blessed for those opportunities. And once to reiterate what Jason Williams had said, that we are grateful and thankful for you, Miss Leah, to moderate this Insight 2022 All About You webinar. And we're very appreciative and grateful for FedEx Custom Critical, Jason Campbell and Mr. Steve being on with us, so that we can spotlight and highlight their company and their view and the opportunities that's out there, and then how we as a company get to service independent contract drivers, owner operators, fleet owners at specific motor carriers, such as a beacon of light as FedEx Custom Critical.
So as I highlighted or suggested early on, folks that are looking to become small business owners or are small business owners and are looking to expand with folks like FedEx Custom Critical, this is the conversation that they want to be a part of today. Yes? Okay. So we're going to meet our esteemed panel guests. We've got Jason Campbell, the VP of Operations, Ops Systems and Support, FedEx Custom Critical, and Steve Callitsis, Managing Director of Operations Systems and Support with FedEx Custom Critical. Gents, if you want to tell us what those long titles mean to us every day, that's what we're looking for.
We will do it, Leah. Thank you, first of all, for having us today and allowing us to be on this panel. We're super excited to talk about FedEx Custom Critical. Our business model, and as you said, Leah, and Jason and Jeff have said, the opportunity that comes along with that. We'll get into it today. We'll talk about our areas of growth. We'll talk about our fleet. We'll talk about what we think are really good opportunities to be a part of this partnership and this family. But I'm Jason Campbell. I've been at FedEx for 21 years in several different capacities. I've worked all over the business. So in 4 different operating companies, and we'll talk about FedEx and what that means in a little bit, but been in this role with Custom Critical now for 6 months. So I know enough to be dangerous. I can't use my new guy card anymore, they've told me, but I think I know enough again to share some insightful things today. Appreciate the partnership that we have with Expeditors. Since I've been on board, I've had several good conversations with Jeff and Jason, and been over to their facility. And to Jason's point about the 15-year relationship that's in place, that's real. And we'll talk a little bit about that today as we get into the discussion. Steve.
Excellent.
All right, thank you, Jason, and thank you, Leah, for the intro. It's really good to be on with Jeff and Jason and you just to talk about Custom Critical, especially with these guys, because they've been a really good partner with FedEx Custom Critical. So it's good to be on the panel with them. My background is in transportation. I started years ago in Roadway Express in their operations planning and engineering department, and the Roadway family of carriers. I've got to do a lot of work on a lot of different modes of transportation, planning out the network size, the equipment to use through that, how the volume flows through these networks. I was at FedEx Supply Chain Services for several years, started up their transportation management group, was involved in their transportation management system. So it's really good to bring those experiences here to Custom Critical. I'm new. I'm been here a few months. I get to use the new card. Jason's is expiring, but he told me I've got a few more months yet, so I'm going to use it. But I tell you, there's flashbacks to a lot of things that we've been talking about for several years. So it's really good to be part of the organization. Operations system and support really does. It is that descriptive. We're supporting operations and our strategic partners, independent contractors, in delivering the services that we provide. So we think about it as holistic. What are all the systems that we interact with? What are the processes? How are people making decisions and moving volume? All that integrated space is coming up through ops system and support. So a lot of responsibility, a lot of great people here to work with, and it's good to be part of the FedEx family.
Well, while you have the mic, Steve, we're going to put the newbie card to the test and expand on that a little bit. Give us a description of the fleet and the focus, the who we are and what we do, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, our fleet of independent contractors, we provide services using dry and reefer equipment of all sizes, cargo van, cargo boxes, trailers. Our temp control fleet with its exclusive use, temperature controlled cargo vans, straight trucks, tractor trailers, all equipped with standardized data logging capabilities. And we reinvest in our company and our equipment. We keep the equipment at the highest standard and at the highest quality. But it's really our independent contractors that are the heart and the driving force of our business. They're the face to the customer, and we value their investment. The customer can call in, talk to one of our agents, but it's really the driver that's out there that's face to face with the customer. So our owner operators and drivers take a lot of pride in what they do and in their equipment, and have as much pride in the Purple Promise as we do at our work. So, we want to be the number one deal for our owner operators. We pay on time, we stand by our word, and our people are the best in the business. We have 24/7 support. So it is that kind of partnership with independent contractors, the FedEx name, brand, the services that we provide, and the support that we have is all part of the fleet operation.
Excellent. Jason Campbell, I'm gonna try to remember to identify between Williams and Campbell. Steve mentioned temperature control, and I know that you've told me that that's a growth engine for Custom Critical. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So Steve highlighted, our service expedite business and our white glove, and the temperature control falls in that white glove space. And I'm gonna zoom out a little bit just to paint the picture. The healthcare market has grown tremendously over the last 10 to 12 years in this country. So, early 2010, 2012, you're talking about a $25 billion market. Now you're talking about $50 billion. So it's doubled in the last, 8 to 10 years. And that's one of our niche markets. So 20% of our business is in that pharma and bio space. But we also serve, medical devices, diagnostics, clinical trials. So some of our customers kind of span across those lines of business. Really good opportunity. Can make some really good margins for us, but also for the independent contractors and fleet owners in that space. But it's a growth engine for us. We have market share, but we want to continue to grow that. The customers tell us, even with the vaccine, the vaccine was a big boom in the last year and a half for us, and we did a ton of business in that space. But as that's, begins to tail off, our customers tell us that there is so much more coming our way in that temp control space. So it's a growth area for us. It's a niche market that we know is going to be a driver for us going forward. So that's a big space that we play in. And as Steve talked about with the temperature control units, it's high end, very important shipments and loads. When you think about the criticality of whatever's happening from a pharma and bio perspective, whether it's vaccines, medication, any samples, all those kinds of things are very important. And Steve highlighted the drivers are the face to our customers, and we play in the B2B space, but that's a key component as well.
It's interesting on SiriusXM, on the Payday show, folks always ask me about my favorite trailer type. And I always tell them reefer, because we live in the United States. I mean, everyone eats, right? It's like a sure thing, but this gives a whole new perspective to the criticality, the word of the day from today's discussion. Thank you, Campbell, as to other uses with temperature control. And to that, you've expanded the fleet, and you're looking to always expand the fleet, not only in temperature control, but in some other areas. Do you want to touch on those before we move on to the marketplace and the other opcos?
Sure. One of the other areas that's really big for us is the DoD. I'll start with the government. It's one of our growth engines, and we are very strong partners with the government, but the DoD is a large segment of that. So think Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines is the DoD. Then you've got the GSA, which is the General Services Administration. So you've got NASA, the FBI, the Veterans Administration, the VA, that sit in that space. And then you've got the commercial government contractors or customers. So you got Boeing, Lockheed Martin, Northrop Grumman. And so we just do business with all of those entities. Another huge growth area for us. The largest shipper in this country is the government. Most people know that, while we have good market share there, we want to continue to grow. It's a really good space for veterans as well. For some of this DoD business, you got to have a government clearance. You got to be a U.S. citizen. You've got to be able to operate as a team in that space, and then you've got to be hazmat certified. But we have several veterans within our fleet that handle, that DoD and government business, and it's again another area that we are focused on from a growth perspective, and frankly need some additional power there. So when you think about opportunities, and that's what we're here to talk about, that's an opportunity for the folks that'll be hearing this webinar.
Noted. Okay. Well, for both of you at FedEx Custom Critical, let's talk about where you sit in the marketplace versus the other opcos. I mean, it's a huge enterprise. We do know that. Frankly, is there a bigger name? So tell us a little bit about where you sit in conjunction to the others.
Yeah, I'll start this one off, and Steve can chime in here in a sec. So you FedEx, you think $90 billion transportation behemoth, and so most people, it started with Express. FedEx Express overnight shipments is where Fred Smith, our founder and CEO, at least until June 1st, he's going to relinquish the title of CEO and just become our executive chairman. But he started in the overnight market, and that's the FedEx Express global overnight 1 and 2 day air market. And then we also have FedEx Ground, which is small parcel. So think competitor with UPS. And those are B2C primarily, right? Same thing with our FedEx Freight LTL network. We're the largest LTL carrier in the nation as well. So, FedEx bought several LTL carriers over time and then combined them to have a footprint across the United States to serve the LTL market. Now, where Custom Critical fits is we're B2B, and we're in that niche where you're talking about service expedite, white glove, and we also have a truckload brokerage arm, but we sit under the Express organization, where we serve very specialized markets that we've talked about, DoD, healthcare, very high-end goods. Some customers I can't talk about, but high-end goods where customers, are willing to pay a premium price to get their product wherever it needs to go. We handle very off-brand things. The Super Bowl trophy is something that people see all the time, and we transport that. We had a manatee shipment a couple of weeks ago from Florida going somewhere else. We do very specialized shipments where customers are willing to pay a premium price because they know the service and the brand will deliver. So Steve, I'll let you jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, you covered it. Think critical shipments, right? So what Jason is describing, with some of those examples, those are, critical shipments that, either require, specialized equipment. We talked about reefer and the temp controlled space, but it's also the services around it. It's we've got a quality management process and system to make sure that our equipment is at higher standards. So these are high value critical shipments, whatever the need is. We've got the equipment and the expertise around that equipment to support. And like I said, our quality programs, which is to make sure that our fleet is at the highest standards to move these critical shipments. So, I love hearing the examples of, some of these things that we've moved over the years, most recently the vaccines. But, think of the equipment that's needed to move those kinds of shipments, and then the services behind it. Some of the high security issues, the monitoring that it's needed, the 24/7 support. So that's our niche within the operating companies, is these critical shipments that have these unique requirements associated with it, and the services that we provide really complements the other family of opcos.
Yeah, and just to add on there, Leah, just one other thing. So what will happen sometimes, customers will come in through what we call FedEx Services, kind of the operating company that sits in between all the operations. And it'll be a customized solution, right? They'll come in and say, hey, we need X. And then so the Express team will call and say, hey, this ain't us. This is you guys. We need you to come up with a customized solution with your white glove service to make sure this happens. Same thing happens in the LTL space as well, where the freight team, it'll come in through the freight team and they'll call us and say, hey, we need you guys to handle this one. This is something that's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. And so we coordinate across, the FedEx companies, and sometimes we're given the, okay, do something with this. I'm like, oh, okay. And we figure it out. That's what we're here for. We figure out solutions for customers and make it happen.
You can add MindReader to your repertoire, because that was one of the things that came up when Steve was talking in my mind. I work with a lot of companies. Many of them own, several arms, right? But it's oftentimes that folks don't always, the left hand doesn't always communicate well with the right hand. And it sounds like that's something that you have to an advantage, frankly, where when a particular ask doesn't necessarily fit one opco, the baton gets passed in a friendly way to say, this sounds like it's more up your alley, even if it means tossing a real hard pass. You've mentioned, and I think this is a good time for ES to join in on the conversation, that what's especially unique is that independent contractors can start their own business under the FedEx brand, that they can expand and grow, in terms of coaching and educating on the industry. And, we promote at NTI a career path, are creating and articulating a career path. And that's been challenging in trucking because we're kind of a non-traditional career and have a non-traditional career path. But one thing that folks do agree on is that the goal for any driver typically at some point is to become a business owner, to become a small business owner, many times, and sometimes even to expand into growing their own larger business or large fleet. And we know many success stories of folks that have done that. In fact, I'm guessing the folks at ES have some good success stories. So let's talk about how this is a great place for an independent contractor to start their business under the FedEx brand. I don't know if you guys want to fight over the mic or if ES wants to start, but I think it's a good spot, Jason, to pipe in on ES.
All right, and Jeff and I will just bounce it back and forth. It's so one, we do think it's a good place to start a business, and not just start it, honestly, but maintain it, grow it, and to see generational businesses. And what I mean by that is when we invest, Leah, in a business, we're looking for something that, the truck is a 3 to 5 year asset. And so we're at least that long. And really what we are doing when we say that we want to help somebody start a business, when we finance that first piece of equipment, we're looking at where's the upgrade and the growth coming from for the next piece of equipment for that individual. So they may want to go from a driver to an owner, but we're immediately looking at what happens when they need to upgrade that truck, what happens when they want to go to a fleet owner, and are the support services in place for them, or is the information they need to educate themselves on going from a owner operator to a fleet owner, is it available to them? That could be people, that could just be resources, being conversations. A lot of what we do here is just have good conversations with people. And that's one of the relationships we have with Custom Critical, in that we have access now. We went for a little while where the seat that Jason Campbell sits in was vacated. And so now that Jason's in there, he has started a conversation that is already bringing forth value to the overall organization, and that we're saying, okay, we have direction, we know the assets, which we're going to talk about today. What type of assets should we be investing into? What type of credentials do these people need? All of this is needed to start a business and grow a business. And Custom Critical is given that direction. And again, why part of the webinar here is, we're so excited about it, is again, putting a spotlight on that particular opportunity. But it takes all of that. It's not a one thing that makes it work. It is an ongoing conversation year in, year out that allows somebody to operate, and the supports that they need. Steve mentioned the 24/7, security or support service needed to do these specialized moves. Well, starting the business is the same way. It needs 24/7 support on certain topics in order to allow it to move and grow as a company or as an individual. And you just have to stay focused on it. It's nothing, one thing we do, it is bringing lots of vendors to the table, whether it be, fuel, insurance, dealers like Stoops, what have you, whether it be bringing in people who are experts in accounting or legal services in order to help them get started well and maintain that business, and immediately start looking about the next cycle. Am I prepared for it? Jeff has a team of people that he oversees that does this on a daily basis. That is, what's coming at them? Are they prepared for it? What do we do to help them get through it? And I'll just spotlight one thing just to highlight this, when COVID hit. So nobody knew it was coming, but when it hit hard, and everybody realized this is not going to be a little bump. This thing's coming at us. So immediately our CEO, Paul Williams, went to our banks, and we have corporate trucks and we have trucks that we've financed into. So we have owner operators, fleet owners we supported. So the same negotiations that we were doing for our own equipment to get interest only or deferred payments or what have you, to say we need 60, 90 days to look at this and say, what happens during this time frame, and what do we look like, and how do we survive? We did the same thing for our owner operators, and we're able to go and represent them to a banking industry, which usually we're doing one at a time. We were able to take a group and represent them to the Daimlers of the world and others to say, look, we need a reprieve to give us time to look as a group, recoup, figure out what's our path forward, come together and move forward. Well, Paul was able to do that to banks. Jeff was able to implement that down inside the owners and fleet owners. And honestly, our turnover, our failure rate did not change at all during COVID. That is phenomenal. And that has to do with both the way that Custom Critical operates itself, as well as the way ES brings services to the table to support those companies who are servicing Custom Critical while we service them. So that's just a phenomenal success story that we have right now that I don't think we're post-COVID yet, depends on who you ask. But as far as a business community, our community responded. The motor carrier, ourselves, and our owners and fleet owners and contract drivers responded and continue to grow and make money and invest in themselves and in their businesses. And we see that going into the future. So that's just a right now issue of how this thing can work.
Lee, I'd like to add a few things to that. So Mr. Campbell had said earlier about a business to business environment. And so just to elaborate on that or expand that view a little bit, I'd like to say it's a business serving businesses by a business. So it's independent contractors creating their own business so that they can go in business to serve a business that's serving another business. And the reason I want to say it that way, not to be funny about it, but to bring in view of the people that the American dream, I believe, is still alive, it's still well, and people do want to own their own business. And if you want to own your own business, you need to be in an environment and into a place that you can succeed and be successful in that. What our company has been able to do is put together programs, platforms, and be able to perform inside of a motor carrier, because we're not a motor carrier. We don't sell freight, broker freight, or dispatch freight. We're a service provider, and we provide services to independent contractors, which consist of drivers, owner-operators, and fleet owners. And they have access to come into our environment and our community, which is consisted and made up of select motor carriers that have large opcos that can provide services across many different segments and verticals inside of the transportation industry. And we do that with truck sales. We do it with financing. We have a rental program. We have a lease with a non-traditional lease with an option to purchase program. Any area and any form you want to enter into the marketplace to start your own business and run at one of the select premium motor carriers that we have inside of our program, we have established a way for you to do that. Low barrier to entry. And when you get them in there, they want to stay in with you. And they want to stay because they've been able to mitigate some of their risk by operating at in an environment that has all of the freight that they can have offered to them, with all the opportunities that you heard them mention. They're talking about DOD, they're talking about healthcare, they're talking about normal dry freight, but they're also talking about high value freight. They've got all different areas covered. So if you want to start your business, this is a good place to start your business. If you need assistance doing that, leave the freight up to the freight experts. You be the operational experts inside of your own business, and allow us as a company to support you that with our financial technology, our financial services that we have, our operational services that we have. You can come in with any level you want to come in. You can come drive and make sure you like that as an independent contractor. You can try it before you buy it to make sure that you like us, that you're comfortable with the motor carrier that you selected, such as FedEx Custom Critical, that you like the life on the road if you don't have experience on the road, or if you already have experience on the road and you're looking for a second or third career for a home or a long-term home place. This is the way and the place that you should be trying to evaluate that. Try it before you buy it. You can get financing into equipment. We have access to equipment. It is limited equipment at this time. We know what's going on in the marketplace, and we know the supply chain disruptions. But once again, little side note, supply chain disruptions is not all that bad when you have a customized critical vertical. So there's lots of things that's taking place that can pull us all together in here. So if you're looking for an opportunity to get into the freight market and you want to have your own business and operate servicing other businesses, FedEx Custom Critical has the freight. They got the different locations, the different areas. We have the services to support you in that area. So,
and Leah, just one thing to key off on something Jeff said is that while ES is focused in on helping people move through their career, you used the term career path, Leah, that we do think that ultimately everybody should be an owner. Now, fact of the matter is not everybody wants to be an owner. And so they are still welcomed and valued in the community. So this is not if you don't want to own a truck or if you don't want to become a fleet owner, we're not here to service you. That is not accurate. We just want to make sure everybody understands is that there is a real opportunity to do that if you desire to do it. I can tell you we have contract drivers who've been in our fleet almost for the entire 15 years who have come in and they just love it. They say, I don't want to own a truck. I don't want the headache of truck ownership or business ownership. I either want to drive an ES truck that I lease or rent from them, or I want to drive for a fleet owner. And absolutely, please don't feel like, we're trying to cut you out of that conversation. We're here to service you. That's where we started. It was as we got a good group of contract drivers, they began to ask, can you help us become owners? And that's what kind of birthed the ownership opportunity and the financing that we brought to the table. So, what, we think we can do this for you. We think Custom Critical is a safe haven, and we think we can turn around and finance you as long as you stay there. Don't go somewhere else, stay there, operate your business there since you know them. That's where you've gotten your experience and that's where you've proven yourself. And that has worked over the years. And so we've grown now hundreds of trucks in that ownership opportunity. But we still have hundreds of trucks that people saying, I would like to be a contract driver. And so there's not one higher value than the other. What we do want to make sure people understand is that a true opportunity to own a truck. You're not forced into ownership. If you want to drive a truck and stay as a contract driver, by all means, you have that opportunity and you will be valued and serviced there as well. I just want to make sure we're saying that very clearly to the whole group. We get excited about truck ownership because we see in the transportation industry so many false opportunities to own a truck and how easy it is for people to get taken advantage of if they get into bad financial, opportunities or deals, rather. So it's a real opportunity to own a business, grow a business, but your business may be, I want to be a driver of a truck and that's where I'd like to stay. And that's what my career path looks like. And by all means, we'll support you day and night doing that as well.
And one more thing, Lee, I'll just jump right in. I know I'll turn it over. Like you said, we're going to fight for the mic, and so not a mic drop, but a mic fight. But so on that, as Jason said, we have had contract drivers come in and stay 15, 16 years, and we're thankful and blessed for those. And we hope we have you and you decide to do that for a long time more coming. We've also had people come in to try it before you buy it, start out as drivers, buy one truck, buy two trucks, buy three trucks, and grow and end up having 100 trucks. And so it's anywhere in between that you want to have that opportunity. That's the beauty of having your own business. Your business could be driving the truck. Your business could be buying and driving one truck. Your business could be buying multiple trucks, driving one or not driving any, and owning a fleet of trucks. So whatever
Absolutely.
Your area of business you want is, we can provide the service. And if you're going to have that and you're going to be in trucking, you might as well be at a place that good times and bad times that you know that they're going to have, as Jason Williams keeps elaborating to, a safe haven. And so you're going to have a place that's got freight there, a proven, tried and true place that can give you opportunities to make a living for you and your family in good times and bad times and in great times.
And I'll just jump in real quickly and say two things. We've got several fleet owners that started with Expediters, and you guys know who I'm talking about. We've got several that I work with that started with you guys and now have their own fleet, and they're part of our FedEx family too. That's number one. Number two, we've got the business, and Steve can speak to this. Customers are asking us every day for more. We need capacity. So this is a great place to be. We've got the customer relationships. We've got, whether it's on the service expedite side or the white glove temp control side, we've got the business. Especially in that pharma space, they're asking for more capacity every day from us. And depending on the lanes, depending on what customer and what we have, we're meeting that need as best we can. But we have the business. That is not a concern. It's more demand than there is supply in the transportation market right now. So this is a great place to be. We've got customers that want more capacity, simply put.
And I'd like to just kick in one thing there. So when we look at finance into a motor carrier, what I mean by that is finance, whether it be a driver, owner, or fleet owner, to work at a motor carrier. Leah, you know this, and we've shared this on all of our webinars or when I've been on the radio with you, that we do look at the motor carrier. We cannot, turnover is expensive. And when an owner has to move from one motor carrier to the next, it can take their year's profits away if it takes them more than 30 days to do that. We all know that. It's very expensive. So the stability of a motor carrier year in and year out is extremely beneficial to a small business. And that's why we have not, people ask all the time, why don't you guys, get your own authority? Why don't you have your own brokers? Why don't you do this kind of stuff? And we let them know that is a niche, that is a talent. We have brands out there. Custom Critical is wonderful at servicing the customer. They have a sales organization that's nationwide. They have the expertise to do that and pile that freight up where these small businesses can come in and service that freight. I just don't believe personally, year in and year out, an owner operator who tries to run a load board or somebody who tries to be a small regional carrier in expediting in today's market with as fast pace, with as much technology as it takes, with all the expertise it takes, with the legalities it takes to run a clean business and run profitably, not just revenue, but take that revenue and make a profit out of it at the end of the month where you actually get to take home $1. I just think it's better to let the experts do what they do. And that's what Custom Critical brings to the table for us. They are the expert in the room to get the customers, service the customers, pile the freight up on the dock, and then let the transportation providers, being the truck owners, come in and haul that freight from point A to point B, which is what they really want to do. They don't want to be out there trying to negotiate with the government and trying to get permits to pull oversized loads and trying to get across the Canadian border and trying to get, we don't have the expertise to do that, and most individuals don't. And so having a community, whether you want to call it a good working relationship, a partnership, where everybody does their piece of it, we find it works very well. It's very clean. It's very nimble. And again, with Custom Critical on the webinar with us and having Steve and Jason in the conversation, it starts a conversation to let you know, well, what kind of trucks are we ordering next year? Well, just listening to them. If anybody's listening to this, I would dare say if you're, in a straight truck, even though here recently they're letting you come in now, I believe, without hazmat. Is that correct, guys?
Oh, yeah.
You can come in, there's a low entry, they remove that, come on and get started. But you ought to listen to what they're saying and say, if I want to grow my business, I need to go and get my hazmat. That would be a growth of business without buying a truck. You can expand your revenue production. You can make more per mile without having to pull any more miles, generate additional revenue on that same truck. There's things like this that even as we talk, if people are hearing them, this is the kind of stuff that comes out of an active conversation that lets small businesses know, what am I doing over the next 6 months, 12 months to grow my business, direct my business so that I can maximize myself. And the data they're sharing right now is letting you know that if you're a tractor, they're telling you they have trailers, temp validated trailers waiting to get hauled. If somebody's listening to this and you're a team tractor, you will not get paid more per mile and you don't have a better opportunity to come and run with these guys. You just have that opportunity. And if you would like, if you're a driver and you want to get into a tractor, then go ahead and get into a position where you can get those additional credentials to drive that rate up without having to necessarily buy more trucks to have more revenue. There's just lots of ways to look at this. But what I like about these conversations and what I hope the audience is getting to hear is that it's this data that matters. And it's the overall conversation that lets all of us invest and grow our own businesses.
Well, let's just expand on that last component for just a moment. I'll summarize, what Jeff and Jason are talking about is what I mentioned early on, which is that you want to protect your business with people who know your business. And so we're talking about partnering with folks that are experts in leading areas with leading offerings, and really just being able to expand and grow in partnership. And Jason Campbell, you mentioned this early on, but if you just want to reiterate, in terms of options for folks that do want to join, of course, as an independent contractor, you can choose what you do, you can choose your home time, et cetera. But do you want to touch on the equipment again and the different types of options?
Yeah, I'll let Steve, he's closer to exactly what we need and what we have in terms of numbers right now, but he's got the data and he can tell you specifically where we need where we got the opportunity.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about pharma and healthcare. Department of Defense is one of the things that I like to talk about too, being a veteran. I was a tanker in the Army, and I love the work that we do with our Department of Defense. We've got growth opportunities in both those verticals. And we're looking, I just reviewed a 10-year plan around how we're reinvesting in our equipment and prepping for future growth. And it's happening both on the dry side and the reefer side. So I know we've talked a lot about our temp controlled units and pharma and what we're doing there. But the dry side is a need also. And, I'm listening to the conversation, boy, and I can see from the outside looking in how complicated it may sound. But that's why you've got partnerships like this, right? We simplify it, and it's the best in the business. I talked about the investment. We're investing right now on, 20 additional temp controlled units. We've got plans to grow our dry fleet and stabilize that part of the business. So there's high growth opportunity and prepping that we're doing on our end to meet that future demand on the equipment side, process side, people side, both dry van, all sizes, and the temp controlled units that we talked about.
Excellent. Sorry about the extra second there. I had to unmute so that you weren't overlapping here. So, I want to switch gears and talk about women. As we look at the screen here, here I am. I'm going to represent the women here in today's conversation, but it is Women's History Month, as you know, in fact, we're wrapping it up. And, I am a huge supporter of women growing in the trucking industry, as are both of your companies. And I've been doing some mentoring sessions recently, and folks are asking me, how do I promote greater opportunities for women, or how have I created a workplace where women want to join? And there's a number of different ways that companies do that. And I want to talk about my own experiences there, but also the experiences at both of your organizations, because you all boast large percentages of women being in your working communities. And again, I think in terms of Women's History Month, and of course, how I came to be a part of the ES community, it all starts at Women in Trucking. I'm just wrapped up 6 years serving as an officer on the board of directors of the Women in Trucking Association. That's where I met Jason Williams. And Jason, when he joined Women in Trucking and joined the board of directors, ES also said, we're going to invest in the community of women that want to grow in the trucking industry. And they created the Women Owned Business Challenge. So in terms of ES, Jeff Tacker, I want to say we are high in our numbers of how many businesses we at ES that we've created in support of that challenge. Do you remember the last number that we talked about last month? I don't know what it is this month.
We were 132, but we've created several, so 135 and going north now.
Yeah, and still growing. So we had a goal when we started this of 150. We're at 135. There's always more opportunity there. And in terms of total percentage of women that the ES community supports, it's very high. It's higher than any company that I work with. You want to touch on that?
We're north of 38%.
We run 35 to 40%.
Which is huge. And so when we look at companies that, that do have such a high percentage of women, of course, there's different components. And I talked about a lot of these in the NTI blog this month. We focused on prominent women in trucking, including the CEO of FedEx Custom Critical. She's a friend of mine and also someone who's mentored me along the way. My own celebration of 6 years as an officer on the board of directors of the Women in Trucking Association, and membership during that time has grown exponentially. We talked about the issue of childcare and how it impacts any industry. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. There's a help wanted sign on every door that we all have entered at some point in the last week. And childcare is severely impactful when it comes to women, because they typically have to make the sacrifice when it comes to work versus childcare. And then lastly, we also focused on what women look for in the trucking industry. And I think that's where we can kind of tie all this together. It's not complicated, right? They look for stable earnings. They look for safe operations and support of their safe operations and safety, whether they're at the facility or out on the road or interacting with customers. They look for mentorship and collaboration opportunities, and they look for women to look up to as leaders. And so I bring it back to FedEx Custom Critical, Jason and Steve. I mean, Ramona Hood is the very first African-American woman to lead a FedEx OpCo. Again, I said someone that I not only has been friendly and kind to me over the years, but also has been a guide and someone that I look up to. And I can't imagine that that's lost to the two of you every day when you go to work.
No, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we're led by, again, the first African-American woman to lead a FedEx operating company, and she's a trailblazer. And so we're devoted and invested in women in trucking. We've got 2 members of FedEx that are on the board with you all, Tracy Schultz and Bonnie Bolding of Women in Trucking. I've worked with both of those women extensively in my career. And so FedEx is very invested. FedEx Custom Critical has, a legal told me, I couldn't say the number, but I'm gonna give you a roundabout. We have over 100 owner operators in our fleet that are women. And so we're not quite as high as Expediters in terms of percentage. We're at about 30, but we're invested and will continue to grow that number because it's something that's important to us.
Well, and I think too that one key component is that a number of the women that are supported in the ES community are also a part of your working community. I mean, inherently
Indeed.
There is that connection. And I think that's really crucial to point out. Whether women are partnered with other folks in their operations as small business owners within this community or are supported in the other ways that I mentioned, we all are working at and running companies that are committed to supporting growth in that area and to measuring and really sharing successes with all of those women. So I think it's something to call out, especially as we do, again, wrap up not only Women's History Month, but also the opportunity at any point to highlight how supportive the companies that ES chooses to partner with are for women in business. It's really important to me, of course, as being a part of the ES community as well.
Indeed.
So, folks, I want to offer you an opportunity. I mean, any final thoughts that you want to share about the day, the conversation? We've got about 5 minutes left, and I'm sure that there might be some components that I either didn't bring up or that I did and you want to emphasize.
Leah, I'd like to just comment on the last topic because I think it highlights the relationship overall. So the fact that Custom Critical has 30+% of women-owned businesses are women inside of their organization, wherever they may be, and that ES does, I think what it'll tell you if you look at it is that in order to service that group, and when I say that group, I don't just mean women, I mean anybody who feels like or has to question, do I belong? Is there a real opportunity for me? Is this something I can do? So this can be people who come over who are first or second generation immigrants. This can be people who don't have the educational background that they feel like that, hey, I don't know if I'm the right type of person to take a risk on, or I don't know if people would give me the opportunity to invest in me. That can be any person from anywhere with any background. But I just think the fact that the women part of it just highlights the opportunity is real. I think it highlights the fact that it's being vetted every day, and there are people coming in who historically our industry average, I believe, Leah, is 6%, 7%.
Yes, I mean, we are still hovering just under 10%, and it's been just in the last couple of years that we've jumped from that 7 to just under 10.
So when you take that, that's letting you know that there's a closed door for lots of people, or they walk past and say, I don't belong in that industry, or I don't belong in that company. But for some reason, they're stopping to do business with FedEx Custom Critical and with Expediter Services. And there's reasons for it. The opportunities are real. The people are real. Doesn't mean there's some people come and touch us who don't like us. Say, I don't like that opportunity. I don't like that lifestyle. I don't know if I like Jason Williams. All of that's okay. But we're honestly who we are. We're not trying to take advantage. We're not trying to talk into something that's not good for you. We are looking for 3 and 5 year investments into you as a person. And we're just looking for good, hardworking people. And when you do that, then all of a sudden you start finding lots of people showing up at the table to do business, lots of people coming from multiple backgrounds, multiple nationalities, and it doesn't matter the race, the gender, saying, hey, I think I can get that done. And so it's that synergy, if you would, of having a real opportunity with real services, with real people at the table, good days, bad days. So talk to you, argue with you, fuss with you, always in an effort to help you and bless you in trying to do what you want to do. And that is, to me, is what more than anything that 35-40% of women in our community highlights, is the reality of it and the open door that we'll talk and service anyone we can. We don't think we're beyond being taught something, learning something new. In fact, our owners and our contract drivers, they teach us every day how to get better at what we do. We value their feedback, and they really do. I don't mean just drive the trucks. Their feedback and their willingness to argue and fuss is what keeps you on your toes and makes you improve as a company. So I just want to end with that. We're very appreciative, but I think the success there highlights the success overall.
And I'll just jump in and say, you know, what Jason Williams hit on is very important. The opportunity is real for any and everyone. The women that we talked about and the stats that we just talked about in terms of how invested we are just highlight that. But that extends out beyond women, and to Jason's point. That's number one. Number two, I hope the takeaway today for the viewers and listeners, you know, you see the relationship between Expeditors and FedEx Custom Critical. And we've had really healthy discussions, to Jason's second point. Yeah, some of it's, you know, we'll get on a call or we'll get on a Zoom call with Jeff and Jason and say, hey, this isn't working. We need to work on this. You need to change this. Hey, this is something you may want to think about. And some of those are immediate tweaks or changes we can make, and some of them are a little bit longer term because it requires a system change, or it's a process change, or something larger. But the point is, we have those discussions, and that's the only way we're going to learn, and the only way we're going to get better and continue to develop the relationship. The third thing I want to leave you with is that the opportunities are here. We've got the freight, we've got the business, we've got the connection to the business, to Tacker's B2B to B2B scenario that he laid out. We've got those relationships, and we've got the business, and we need capacity. So this is a good place to be. Our brand is strong. FedEx is not going anywhere. FedEx Custom Critical is not going anywhere. We're going to continue to grow, and we want to do that profitably, but we also want our partners to grow profitably as well. So we're invested, and we're here. Feel free to reach out to any of us. We're available to discuss any details that you want to discuss with Expeditors or FedEx Custom Critical.
Yeah, and I'll just end with the final comment. I love the way that we're ending. You know, our culture, you know, we talk about people first all the time. And you can tell by the partnership and the discussion that we're having, we've got shared values with Jeff and Jason and the way that they talk about their business. I mean, it is about people first. You know, we just celebrated, you know, Women's History Month, and we had some conversations with some owner operators, and one of the female owner operators, she made a good point. It's a good one to end with. It said, it's not about being a female. It's about delivering to the customer and doing the job safely and right. So, you know, putting that people first, that culture, the partnerships and the collaboration that we have fits within our culture. So I think that's a good final comment and a great discussion. Thank you for having us.
Very welcome.
Hey, Leah, just one little quick
You
thing.
want to add something?
Little plug. So I want to make sure everyone that's the audience has heard us is that we work for you. We meet you where you are. It's all about you. 2022, it's all about you.
Is he trying to steal my lines? Do you think that's what that was? Steve mentioned shared values, and I think that that's another key component, that the ES community provides real support and leverage, and it's from and for real people, and we see that in the organization at FedEx Custom Critical as well. You know, we're looking to be an organization that asks for feedback, that addresses concerns, that follows up so you know you were heard. There's carrier advocacy, business owners that focus on generating revenue and not on those day-to-day issues or things that maybe aren't in their strengths, like both of the Jasons touched on today. Making available a variety of other resources and services. And While we have the folks still online, I just want to thank our guests, Jason and Steve. It was really good to open up the conversation with the ES community and folks that are looking to join, to be able to join in on the conversation. So thank you for joining us, and Jeff and Jason, thank you for always being willing to be a part of the conversation with me. So I'm going to wrap it up here briefly. We are being asked if this will be available on demand, and of course it will. If you registered for today's live webcast, you will receive a link for the on-demand version, as well as any follow-up to any questions that I didn't get to during the webcast today. And as Jeff Tacker said, in 2022, it's all about you. Making more, saving more, having more. Now's the time, and this is the place to start your own trucking business. If you're not currently in touch with us, we're going to put a slide up here on the screen with a variety of ways that you can be. And as I said, in addition to registering with us today, we'll automatically remind you of the on-demand version of today's webcast and any upcoming events and offerings, including next in our series for the Insight 2022, It's All About You. We hope you'll take the time to join us and join our community in a variety of ways. Get in touch and stay in touch. And in the meantime, stay safe, well, and connected, as with ES, you never stand alone. Thank you for your time today.